general, this idea of mentorship is really important. But especially in big wave surfing, this kind of skill set that gets passed on. And it's really amazing when you think about the women who are charging right now, because this timeline is so truncated, right? Like from not really knowing about how many women were out there charging these big waves to there being like women charging at such a level, high level, right? And that kind of mentorship and what happens with communal kind of sharing of information, that like how important that is, especially in big wave surfing, because of the skill set of the, just knowing how to navigate in the ocean and also gear. Big wave surfing, especially at Mavericks, I imagine is super gear heavy, whether it's your board or your wetsuits and things like that. Like, so Judith, really guided you through your initial experiences. But after that, like, what are some of the pitfalls and, errors or maybe some consequences you paid in big waves that happened as a result of just not knowing? Like now and those are stories you could share to like the next generation and to your peers, and this kind of collective shared knowledge makes you all better, right? But what do you have any stories of some like crazy situations you've been in? And now you look back and you're like, oh my God, I just didn't know any better.
I mean, I still feel like I don't know. I mean, I still feel like I'm learning. I honestly feel like I'm just beginning with all of it. That's what this season kind of, got me so fired up, because every time I'm out there, all I really see is how much I have still to learn. But in terms of, and then in terms of mentorship, I think that's what makes these women I'm doing the documentary about stand out, is that they didn't have any mentors. There was no one really that came before them that was really doing what they're doing. And
you're talking about the She Change film.
Yeah, so I'm talking about this my She Change film about the four main characters: Bianca Valenti, Paige Jones, Andrea Muller, and Calla Kennelly. There wasn't another woman taking them out, showing them the ropes. Andrea recently just mentored this 13-year-old, I think she's 13 years old, that just surfed that huge swell at Jaws.
Wow.
I mean, she's been taking her out and training her, and she's really, and Paige has been mentored. They've all been mentoring these young girls now. So it's just a totally different ballgame for this next generation, and a large reason I want to tell this story is I just want this generation, the coming generations, to know that there was this time when these women really had to do something that no one had ever done before, and have the courage to do that. And with water photography and what I do, I think it's I don't want to say it's harder, but there's less mentors to seek out. I think I've definitely asked, like I mentioned, I found a photographer in Japan the very first time to shadow and follow. It was a guy, obviously, but there was actually one other woman that she shot from shore, but she was there, and I actually ran into her at the Olympic trials in Miyazaki 2 summers ago. She's still shooting. So there's just not as many water photographers. Just the numbers aren't there in terms of finding those mentors to teach you.
How about the men? Because I feel like it's such a meritocracy that I feel like you guys are a real close-knit group. Like, even I see a lot of like camaraderie and shout outs to each other. And it's like, regardless of gender. And it seems like at that level, there's such a level of respect. And I feel like it's the same with even the surfing portion of it. I mean, aside from some old school bigots and, old school thinking, but I think for the most part, there's a respect of like, if you're out here, like props to you. So, I mean, I wonder if it's been like that for you with the men who also, surf, shoot these kind of monster waves.
Yeah,
like the scale.
Definitely. So I've, because there haven't been other women to ask, but I have looked to people like Ryan Craig, Chachi, Ryan Chachi Craig. He has been really helpful. and Fred Pompemeyer.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually someone I met a long time ago for a story I did for the LA Times about Garrett McNamara. He was
You did
there.
a film about him, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I met Fred on that trip. And so, when you've been around a long enough time and you keep coming back, Frank Chiardi is also someone who has mentored me. And, I'm trying to think of like some stories of mistakes I've made or,
what was the worst consequence that you've had to pay?
Well, there's one mistake I made. A big lesson I learned actually was from Makua Rothman at Pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
I was shooting there many years ago with Bianca, and it was a big day. And I don't want to say I was cocky, but I was confident and got rattled but it's a totally different ball game, right? It's not, I'm on a sand bottom here for the most part, and Pipeline is just its own beast. And I had dove under. My timing on diving under was just, I thought it was fine, but I just got, sucked down and and just got totally rattled and out of breath and was shaken up. And I came up and he saw that I was shook up, and he's like, "You gotta dive earlier. You can't do, you can't dive. You gotta dive a lot earlier here." And he was totally right. And now, actually, at Mavericks, one of the times that I had to avoid when I had to dive, a wave was like, I was in the impact zone, and I had to obviously get out of harm's way. But I just dove way before it. I mean, I could hear Makua like, "You got to dive early." And so I just dove super way before the wave was going to break so that I could get, to maximum depth. And I survived, I was okay. And it worked. So it's kind of like little things like that. I think that
really highlights the importance of the time you spend in the water. There's this collective memory that you have with more water time, and also more 100%. Experience with the people that you are in the water are in with the water. Like I imagine that's why like places like Hawaii, the level of water knowledge is so deep, because it's just like it just is so deep. And so you're getting that knowledge from like every source when you're in the water. But like why it's important, to put in the time in the water, because of you're just getting more and more information, whether it be through other people in the water or just being in different conditions. And I can't even imagine what it's like to go under a wave at Maverick. That is on a big day. That must be like, I don't know, really dark.
It is very dark. Yeah, I mean, I think that experience is also why, even though I was out of the water for 2 months, it was just, it's not like riding a bike, but for me, because I've been swimming out at Ocean Beach for 20 years, it's just, I am so familiar with the just waves, the currents and everything about the waves here, even though it can change in an instant, and I never take it for granted. Obviously it's always the boss, but it's just that familiarity and that time spent in the water that it's everything. And same with Mavericks. I've been just inching my way into doing what I'm doing now. Like it's also been 20 years there of just like inching, right. And now I feel like I'm kind of there on the playing field. And that's where after the season, I'm just like, God, I'm just like, have so much more I want to do out there. I just hope I hope my body can hold up for a few more years here.
Do you want to talk about how your surfing has changed since you've been shooting and swimming around in bigger and bigger waves? Have you become more comfortable surfing big days at OB? And do you have aspirations?
I do have aspirations to surf Mavericks at some point. I never thought I would previously, but now that I've been spending more time there, and I've also been surfing the biggest days at Ocean Beach, so I feel like I'm inching my way towards just trying it. I don't want to I just want to try it on a small day at Mavericks. I think that's something I want to, I paddled out actually last year. I paddled out and tried to paddle into a few of them. So I got a kind of taste of looking over the ledge. And I think I want to try it. Yeah. So, in terms of my surfing, I mean, I actually didn't really shoot that much at all last season. In part, there were a few reasons, but, I was just liking surfing so much. And I know that the more surfing I was doing, I know that surfing has helped my shooting, right? I learned how to shoot really before I learned how to surf. And they're mutually beneficial. Like watching that much surfing has definitely taught me how to surf and taught me some skills on surfing. But also, I think you limit yourself as a water photographer if you only do water photography. Like, how are you going to know the best parts of the wave or where to be on the wave if you don't know, you're always dancing with the surfers. So you have to know the surfers dance in order to capture it. Right. So I think it's, it's definitely a mutually beneficial thing.
Absolutely.
It's also been, in terms of like mental health, it's something that I like, beat myself up with all the time. Is like, if I was surfing, I'd just be like, see all these beautiful waves that I was like, I wish I was shooting. Or I'll be out shooting and it's like a mediocre day and I'm just like, fuck, I should be surfing. But now with a little age and a little more experience, I understand that it's not wasting my time doing either. Like they're both benefiting each other at all times.
I wanted to shift the conversation a little bit in terms of like representation or just being a woman of color. I know you're on your mom's side, you're Japanese. You spend a lot of time in California and the water. Do you feel like there's any, and I also see that you've done a lot of work with Textured Waves, really amazing group of women recently. And I think you're also involved with Brown Girl Surf, right? I don't know if you've worked with them. But like what that means, especially somewhere like California, where it's a very diverse state, but not necessarily represented in the water, especially in surfing. Like what your experience has been and where you see how changes in that kind of participation in the water can be very beneficial to everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I think it benefits the culture. I think surfing culture can only benefit from more diverse voices and, people in the water.
Do you have any experiences, like any experiences where you felt?
Because of my race, because of, I mean, I think the female part is first. I guess I'm not supposed to have skipped ahead and looked at that letter, Matt. Can I mention that one of the letters that you got? Well, there's a letter from an Asian American surfer that was saying that, people think they can drop in on him because he's Asian. And definitely that's the way women, if a guy sees a woman in the water, they're like, she's not going to make the wave. Like, I think as an Asian American, it's a specific thing because I don't know what you think, Karen, but I think the largest ethnic minority that is in the water is Asian American. When I see other minorities in the water, it's usually Asian Americans. So I think more work needs to be done to, like Textured Waves is doing, to raise representation from other, groups. But I think there's so much to be gained. As we know, we're all like surf addicts. Like there's so much like holistically with your life and your mental health that to be gained from surfing, that why should that be exclusive to white men? Like if anything, it's all these other groups that need it more in terms of the mental health benefits and the, the confidence building and the, physical, just building your physical strength and all of that translates into confidence in the workplace and focus in your, dreams and aspirations and all of that.
I know that you're very public about just your family history and mental health and everything. But one thing that I